Welcome everyone to this week's episode of You Made That, the podcast about makers, making, and the things we make. This week, as always, me, RebeccaDeGroot, Bob Blandford, and we are missing Michael DeLauter, unfortunately, but we do have, at this point, 24 guests on the show. So, this week we decided to go live so they can see us. You who will be listening at home will not be able to unless after you go through and give us a download and a listen, you go onto our future YouTube channel that might be coming soon and give us a listen and a watch on there to get us going. So, Bob.
Yes.
What have you been working on?
Oh my goodness. I've been busy lately. I recently purchased a jeweler saw, and I've been trying to teach myself how to cut coins. I've got some ideas for using those coins in some turnings, using them in some pin blanks, some different things like that. It's not as easy as it sounds. I opted for the jeweler saw. I mean, I have a scroll saw, but the scroll saw moves rather quickly. So I thought, well, let's try something that I've got a little more control over. So I purchased a jeweler saw. I've cut a couple of coins, and so far I'm happy with it. But it does take a very light touch. There's a lot of finesse involved there. So I need to cut a bunch more. And somebody questioned the other day, I'm cutting pennies, right? And somebody said, you need to cut something bigger. You just start cutting quarters. And I was like, no, I cut a lot of pennies for the cost of a quarter. I'm kind of a tightwad, right? So other than that, I made a tool the other day. A fellow named Lynn Lacey, he's a fellow turner, contacted me, and when he does a lot of pins, and when he squares his blanks, he likes to do it on his lathe. So he asked me to make him a tool that he can grip in a collet chuck on his headstock, and then he'll put a Jacob's chuck in his tailstock with a punch, and the size of his tube of his pin, and he puts sticky sandpaper on this little tool. And while the lathe is spinning, he can bring the blank up to this little disc, and he can square his blanks very quickly. So I made that out of aluminum on the old Atlas lathe the other day, and it was a super simple turn, and it was a super simple device. So it only took me 2 hours. I got that thing. I love using that lathe, but man, it takes me forever.
Now, you posted that on your Instagram, right?
I did post some stuff on the Instagram, and I actually filmed it, but I didn't really put it out because I am not a machinist, and I don't want to have people think that I think I know what I'm doing. I am learning, and I knew I would just get totally bashed, so I saved that video. It's not out there for the world just yet. Yeah,
that's the worst when people think you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah, I've been trying to use the metal lathe quite a bit. I'm into vinyl. I like classic vinyl, and I have a bunch of 45 RPMs. And I turned out of aluminum on that Atlas lathe some spindle adapters, 45 RPM spindle adapters. And I only plan to really turn one or two for me. And of course, I've had to turn them for my son and then his buddy who's into vinyl. So I've turned a number of them, and I've gotten pretty quick at turning those. And it's a good, simple thing to kind of teach technique, so that's been a lot of fun. And in the same vein with vinyl, the thing I've been working on the most lately is my wife. All of my vinyl, well, not all of it, but a good portion of it sits along a wall in our bonus room, and it drives her nuts because she can't vacuum, she can't dust, she can't clean. So I've been building crates for my vinyl to get it up off the floor. And I've built the crates. I've got the vinyl in crates, and now I'm trying to build some sort of a stand to where I can have the vinyl at waist high, but I don't want to lock myself in. I want to be able to remove the crates and rotate them so that I can always have the box on top that I want to sort through. A little hard to explain, but that's pretty much what I've been working on lately, and it's kept me busy the last few days in the shop. How about you? What have you got going on?
Well, I mean, we haven't seen each other in about 2 weeks, which, if any of you know my schedule, which most of you probably do, it's always jam-packed. Well, it's also been Christmas break since we last saw each other. I haven't been to school, which has been glorious, and I have completely checked out. I'm just I'm not going to read my emails. I'm not going to answer anything. If any students try to contact me, they do not exist. I'm not dealing with it right now because they had their chance. And I'm just not giving in, so I haven't yet. But we go back tomorrow. So I've been in denial the last couple days, and I've also been really anxiously stressing out. So what happens in my head when this time frame comes is, first of all, I start having really weird school nightmares where I'm back at school, but I've forgotten to bring any of the stuff that I'm supposed to have at school. So then I'm just panicked all day. Or just random weird dreams that have something to do with school, but I really shouldn't be focused on those things. So I'm trying not to think about it. And I did spend one day that I was just sleeping all day. And I'm just like, this is new for me. I'm usually in a school time frame. I'm usually like out of bed at 7 something, and then I'm just straight to the shop or straight doing something, getting me ready for the day. And I'm just like, what is going on with me today? But it was strange, but I feel like I kind of needed it, because then the following day I started carving and painting some of the pieces that I've been working on. And I posted the one, and if you guys haven't seen it yet, I can hold it up for you guys to see. But I posted this one.
That's a beaut.
And for those of you who are listening at home, it's a hollow form box. It's going to squeak for a second because I'm going to open it. It's a hollow form box. The lid, the inside is painted black to match the outside. The bottom of the box is cherry, and I'm not going to be able to figure out where it lines up again, so good luck to me in the future. But it's all textured on the outside with saber-tooth burrs, and then painted just with acrylic paint. So I've got my little tub of acrylic paints, and it's all painted black first, and then I did a technique called dry brushing to just really, really lightly go over all of the high points of the textured surface, just to catch those peaks where all of the texture kind of meets. And it ended up being, it ended up giving me a really, really cool effect. It sort of looks like metal, which brings me back to a couple weeks ago when I made a knife. I don't know if I made any reference to that on the podcast yet, but I did make a wooden knife, which was a lot of fun. And then this was actually the first box I made, which is a smaller version of kind of the same texture pattern, but with just one size burr. And then another one that I've been playing with too, just kind of playing with some more textures. And I only did these just because I've been asked to do a couple demos that are my textured pop box. So they all pop or squeak.
That's
that one
perfect.
Just kind of made a little bit of a noise. And it's not lined up again. Or there we go.
That's a nice fit.
pop. Yeah, that's the pop we're looking for. Let's see if I can get it right in the mic.
Nice.
So I was just prepping for that, and then I just got really carried away. I'm like, I'm really enjoying all these textures. It's letting me forget about what I'm supposed to be focused on right now, which, I mean, who knows what that is at this point. But it's been helping me distract myself. And then along with those, everybody keeps telling me that the black one looks like a dragon's egg. Oh, and I did these awesome carvings on my fantastic boxes with saber-tooth burrs that you can find at sabertooth.com. And if you're interested in getting your own saber-tooth burrs to do this awesome texture, you can find them again at sabertooth.com. And to save 10% off your entire online order, YMT is the code to enter at checkout. Have fun. Congratulations. You will earn yourself a fantastic new tool that you'll love forever. I've also been making these cute little dragons.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
But
that is incredible.
This is not wood. It's just made out of polymer clay. I still need to scratch the eyeballs so that the eyes actually come through. And I've got one more that was Henry's request. He wanted me to make a flame dragon. So I made a little flame dragon.
Wow.
And I still need to finish him, so it looks like he's all charred. And
dang, I've just been cutting pennies. It's pretty damn impressive.
Well, I started this one months ago, and this one was just sitting there done, and I just hadn't painted it yet. So I had fun painting that one. And then this one I just painted all black, and then colored it with some bronze and silver metallic paint.
I like the unicorn horn.
Thank you.
Or is that a narwhal horn?
It's a unicorn horn.
Okay, well, I thought so, but you never can tell the difference between unicorns and narwhals, right? It's so subtle.
I mean, they're the unicorn of the sea, so.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what I've been working on, and just trying to get my calendar in order so that I know which demos I have when, and I'm trying to absolutely 100% make sure I haven't scheduled anything that overlaps. But I have a process, and I think it's working so far. We'll find out if I get 2 emails the same week saying I have a demo on the same day, but
So
it hasn't happened yet.
What's your process? Do you like write it on your hand with Sharpie and then photograph it on your phone with your phone, or what do you do to?
Well, that's usually my process, because I mean, it's the only list I'm not going to lose is if I write it on myself somewhere. But no, when I get the email, I'll flag the email so that I can go back to it and find it easily. And then if they gave me multiple days, like I want you either this day, or this day, I'll put the demo in as possible demo for this group on any of these 3 days. And so until the demo date is confirmed, all 3 days are booked in my calendar, and I don't give anyone any access to any of those days. And then as soon as they are booked, I try to immediately go back in, delete the 2 that aren't supposed to be there, and change the color of the one that is. So it works so far. So far. And I'm excited about January too, because this is the first month that I've got 1 demo every week for the whole month.
Oh, wow.
Plus the 3-day class in Chicago. So that should be fun. I am going to take a day off from school, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I mean, half of my kids are still virtual anyways, so should be fun. Should be interesting.
Okay. Wow. You are one busy woman, that's for sure.
Yes. I like it that way though, because the days that I don't do things, they just feel like there's something wrong. And if I'm not just doing even something little, like one of my little dragons, like if I didn't do something like this, I would feel like what's going on with my life? Why can't I do anything? But the day that I spent in bed all day, I don't know. I felt like I deserved it, and I just like. Okay.
I wish I had the time to do that, because I still have 3 kids at home, and it's always working on somebody's car. Somebody's got a flat tire. The water heater went out, and and I have to fight through. I've been fixing chairs and working on crawl spaces, so trying to get those things done and then find time to get into the shop. I thought being off work I'd have a lot of time, but actually my wife has used that as an opportunity to get that honeydew list beat out, and I've been busy, but not as busy as you, evidently.
Well, I like to stay busy, though. There were some other things that I was doing. Oh, I finished a collab piece between myself, Linda Ferber, who was, until just recently, a huge name in the American Association of Woodturners, AAW. She just recently retired, and the collaboration is with Linda Ferber and Janice Levi, who is also an incredible female woodturner. And Marie, you know about this. One of the people that I made as co-host or host, who's helping me out right now. She's helping organize, or is one of the main organizers of the Women in Turning exchange. I don't have all the information on it, but a bunch of women got together, split off into groups. Each group had kind of a leading word to sort of drive the inspiration behind their collaboration piece. Let me ask Bob. Hey, Bob, do you want us to be able to let Marie explain this little section real quick?
I think that'd be a great idea. Yes, please.
Yeah, let's do that. Marie, yes, please jump in and explain, because I'm doing a terrible job.
Well, what we're talking about is the Women in Turning Committee in the AAW, and we've set up a virtual WIT exchange, which for the past 2 years has been a live event that happened at Aramont in September. But unfortunately, we had a little bit of an issue this year called, the virus. And so we couldn't do it. But we all decided that we really wanted to be able to do it, and we thought that the Women in Turning would want to do it as well. So basically what it is we got a whole bunch of people together through social media, and these women joined in to teams of 3, and they chose words from a selected list. It was pair of words, which are basically a noun and a modifier. And some of these words are, a little bit different, not something that you would normally expect to see. You can think of things like one of the word pairs was harmonious bones. That was an opportunity. You could choose your words. We prefer in the in-person exchange, all of the words were chosen out of 2 separate bags, and the team got to choose them, and then we would go ahead and sorry, I'm omitting people as well. So we would also go ahead and work together in a 6 to 8 hour period. We got the words, we had to devise the project, and we had to make the project. So the goal of it is not so much a gallery quality piece, although this year quite a few of them are looking pretty darn cool. But the goal was to document the process of the creation and how you got to whatever your project was for this particular set of words.
So Marie, are you assigning the words to the groups, or are you randomly drawing the words for each group?
Well, so each of the groups got to choose the words themselves.
Okay.
I'm in 2 groups, and my group, both groups, literally put them in a hat. And we actually used a wheel picker, and we got a number, and we started at the top of the list and worked our way down and ended up with a set of random words. Okay. And then we started at the top and at the bottom, and then we put those 2 in and randomly chose which one that would be. So
well, then may I ask a question of you and Rebecca, if it's not too much? Who is in each of your groups, and what words did each of your groups have to work with? Is that something we can ask, or is that a top secret for the time being?
No, it's definitely something you can ask.
I'd be interested in knowing who's in your group, Marie, and what your words were, and then same for Rebecca.
So I have 2 groups. One group is myself as the woodturner. I have a fiber and glass artist who is Sandy McLean Hockmuth. Her husband is a woodturner. And Cindy Singh, her husband is Dick Singh. She is a metalsmith. So my first group, our words were diverse evolution. Okay. And I've just posted a couple of little teaser pictures of that project. There's going to be teased out over this week on Instagram. And that one's kind of cool. My second group is where there's 3 woodturners, but the first one has been woodturning for exactly 1 week when we started. The second one had been, oh, there she goes. That's so cute.
Sorry, somebody just asked me to show it.
Cool. The second one is a woodturner who's been, her name is Mary Phillips. She's in Michigan, amazingly enough. Oh. But she had been turning for 4 weeks when we started this process. And it's an interesting collaboration. Our words are tactile reflection, and there's also a little, yeah. So I mean, they're weird. The combinations are strange. What was yours, Rebecca?
Ours is joyful passage.
Okay.
So, yeah, and I already posted the finished pictures of the piece too. So we're not teasing it at all.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you talk about, some of the women who are joining who've been 1 week turning and 4 weeks turning. I got to say, I have seen more women getting involved in wood turning in about the last 12 to 24 months, because it's honestly, it's a very male dominated hobby, and it's generally a very older male dominated hobby. We don't see a lot of young men. And as I look at the demographics of the people who I do a YouTube channel who follow that channel, I'm seeing, I think it was either 13 or 16% are now women, which used to be 2-3% for years and years and years. And but it's a lot of women, and then there's still a lot of the 45 to 65 crowd. We're still pretty big, so I haven't seen this push down to the younger folks quite as much. But I'm excited to see more women getting involved in turning. I think it can only benefit the hobby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree, and that's one of the reasons I enjoy WIT, is it gets you into the kind of craft and getting you into that hobby, and then once you're there, you're down the rabbit hole, and then you kind of a lot of people don't feel comfortable just jumping right into a primarily male-dominated field. They need kind of the, I guess, kiddie pool version before really diving in and getting that support before feeling as though they're confident enough to just dive straight in with the rest.
I've talked to a few women about that, and what they say is they're a bit intimidated because you'll see like an advertisement in the newspaper for a Turner's Club, and you'll go to the club. Right now you don't, but it's primarily men, right? And I'm a man, so I can say bad things about men, right? We're not always the most patient when it comes to explaining things, and I think that is something that I've learned with my daughter. When I explain something to her, I have to be extremely patient, and she gets it. She picks it up. And that's something I try to do when I work with people or when I do a video. I try to be very patient and very, very deliberate in what I say, and I try to give as much detail as possible because I think women are very detail oriented, and they want to know more about how did you do that? How did you do that? And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm starting to see the demographic go up, for my channel, and I'm excited about it. I mean, I think it's great because I'm getting a lot of questions from women that I never would have got from men, and they're very creative. They're way more creative. Men are so logical, right? And it's A, B, black, white. We don't on off. We don't have that creative thinking that we get from the female. Are the female participants, and I really enjoy that. And I can honestly tell you, we only have 2 females in our club, which is, it's. I wish there were more. But
it's also really nice to teach women too, because they're very receptive to new information. They don't already have this idea in their head that they know everything. No offense to the guys, some of you are like that, but some women are like that too. But I found that it's a lot easier to teach women a new craft or a new process, or even just like smaller techniques when it comes to turning or when it comes to woodworking in general, because they're a little bit more cautious. And then they think the process through in their head a lot more before diving in. It ends up leading to a much better result sometimes. I'm not going to say every time, but I've just had a lot of success with women moving forward a little bit faster because they absorb just everything. It's nice.
I think a lot of us guys are Tim Taylors, right? We just we know how to use tools. But you're not going to teach me anything I don't already know. I guess I'm guilty of that. I can't say I'm not.
Right. But, although I haven't seen very many women with missing fingers.
That's a good point.
Just saying.
Maybe they're smarter than us and they stay away from those bad tools.
I have a couple scars.
Yeah. I just wish I could get the women in my life more into the shop. My wife has no interest whatsoever, and my daughter did when she was younger, but now she's sort of drifted away. But I know she has enough of a knowledge and enough of an understanding and the ability to use tools that one day she will hopefully come back, to the dark side. So
I wish I could get the man in my life to get out to the shop with me. The other way around.
Get rid of the PS5. That's all. Turn off Netflix.
He doesn't have that ice cream sandwich yet. No, he's
okay.
He's been reading a book on his phone lately, and it's all he does right now. Aside from, he did go to the gym with me today, and he did go with me grocery shopping. So we're good on all of those little areas. And we have been going to the gym, which is crazy. Just one more thing to put in my schedule. But let's move on. Bob, what have you been watching?
Oh my gosh. You know me, I am dying to get my hands on a vintage car. And this has nothing to do with turning, nothing to do with woodworking. But I'm dying to get my hands on a vintage car. And I was working on a deal that fell through. And I keep watching guys like Junker Up, and I'm watching Junkyard Digs and Watch JR Go, and all of these guys who are pulling cars out of the weeds and getting them running again and resto modding them. And I am just so into that right now, and I don't know why. And I've been watching an awful lot of that. And beyond that, just a lot of different stuff. I watched an interesting video the other day about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and it interested me, and it was talking about the military, the elite soldiers that guard the tomb of the unknown soldier. And I find things like that, as well as history videos, extremely interesting. And I can't say I've watched a lot of woodworking or turning videos, but I've been trying to kind of distance myself from that a little bit, because I've had some ideas, and I don't want to watch somebody else do it and kind of skew my idea and then think I have to go that way. I want to kind of let it develop and sort of figure it out. How you say, very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I just lost the word I'm looking for, but I just want it to happen naturally. So I'm trying to avoid them. There's been a few that have popped up in my feed that I've wanted to watch, but I thought, no, let's just hang off a bit.
So historical stuff.
I love history. God, I love it. Titanic. I love watching about the Titanic, and there's always new theories about. I get addicted to it. I'm watching them pull tanks out of the weeds.
Your audio
and out of
just
rivers.
cut out.
Oh, don't know why I went mute, but yeah, I get really addicted to those things. I've been watching them pull tanks out of rivers, and I don't know what it is about history that fascinates me, but it always has.
Yeah. Speaking of history, I'm getting quite the history lesson leading into what I've been watching. So Jeopardy is on Netflix, and we've been watching it pretty much nonstop. I'm not muted, am I? Okay. Yeah, we've been watching Jeopardy pretty much nonstop, and I'm surprised how many of those answers I know, and I think Henry's a little bit surprised too. But like I've said in the past, I love useless information, and that's basically all it is. It's just a giant collection of useless information. Like, they've got the this has nothing to do with Jeopardy, but there's a book on useless information, and it's called The Book of Useless Information, and it's all just random facts. And I think I mentioned that I wanted to do just random information every once in a while on the podcast, just throwing in some facts like, did you know that a rhinoceros blah 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 blah, because I love it, and maybe somebody else would get something out of it too. But every once in a while they have like wood facts, or they had one set category that was all just answers that had to do with trees, and I knew most of them, and it was great. But along with that, what else have I been watching? I haven't been doing a whole lot, but I have been listening to the book Ender's Game. Have you heard that?
Oh,
or read
I haven't
it?
heard no, I haven't read it, but I've heard about it.
Okay.
It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, it's like futuristic kind of sci-fi. I still haven't gotten too far into it yet, but it's good so far. It was one that Henry recommended, and it was an 11-hour book, which is good for me because while I'm doing things in the shop, I like to listen to things that can keep my brain engaged. And that one's been really good. So, well,
I love useless knowledge, and I felt really good the week before we went on Christmas break. I've been off for about 17, 18 days. But the week before we went off Christmas break, we had a meeting, and there was a debate going on when I got into the meeting, and the debate was who would you choose for your Trivial Pursuit partner, and I was the number one contender. So I felt pretty good about that. You know, it's kind of nerdy, but I'm full of useless knowledge, and I love it. I don't know what it is.
I'd be so honored if I was chosen as a Trivial Pursuit partner. Man. I remember watching my parents and grandparents play Trivial Pursuit when I was younger, like real young. And I was just like amazed at how many of the answers they knew. I'm like, how? Like, I didn't even know what most of the words were, and they were just like, it's this, and they were right. And I'm like, how? But I mean, at that point, they were probably in their mid 40s or mid to late 40s at that point. So, I mean, they had a good 15, 20 years on me. So, yeah, you know, you never know. I think if I absorb more, I could be a Trivial Pursuit master. Oh, and I also ordered an Alex Trebek Pop Funko.
Pop Funko. Oh my God, I'm having a difficult time. My son wants one of those, and I'm having a difficult time finding it. He wants a Dwight Schrute Funko, as well as an Ahsoka Funko from The Mandalorian, and those are like insanely impossible to get.
Really? I wouldn't think that Dwight would be impossible. Although they did just take The Office off of Netflix as well, and we did finish all of the whole season series right before they took it off. I think we got it in with a little less than a day.
I finally binged it while I've been off this week. We binged it and I've seen them all.
Oh my God. Wow. Yeah. That was a busy week of The Office then.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mandalorian. I thought you were talking about that. I finally caught the Mandalorian. Okay. I've seen. I haven't binged The Office, but I've seen all the episodes because it's one of my favorites.
The Office, yeah. They just took it off of Netflix. We were really disappointed, and they took off Parks and Rec a few months ago, I think. I'm also very disappointed about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on. The Office is on Peacock, Jim Rumsey says. And Marie Anderson says, did you know that the reason an owl hoots at night is to warn off other owls from their territory? I did not know that. That's interesting. I just figured it was a mating call.
That's kind of what I thought it was, yeah.
I learned all about owls and owl pellets when I was younger, so that was interesting. Being a homeschool kid, of course, and we live...
Owl pellets?
Owl pellets? You don't know what an owl pellet is?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I do know what an owl pellet is. So are you talking about taking it apart to figure out what they've been eating?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Being homeschooled and living in the middle of 40 wooded acres, we went out, found a bunch of owl pellets, and dissected them and found like full carcasses of animals. I was like, "What is this?"
I do have a question for you, and Michael loved this because it's a bit of a tangent. But how do you know it's from an owl and not a hawk or some other large bird?
I don't remember, but I know that all
so there's
of them were very.
That's useful knowledge, I guess.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't want to just be picking up animal poo all over the place, but, I don't know.
Okay.
Apparently, my parents knew the difference, and they were like, that's an owl pellet. I'll have to ask. I'll have to ask my mom how the heck she knew. Yeah, they're like regurgitated.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So it's different and bigger. I think that's the main difference. But I don't know.
I just think what's amazing is I'll hear an owl every now and then, but I've never seen an owl in the wild. Only in like a zoo or on a TV show. So I think it's interesting that you can not only see owls, but you're actually able to find owl pellets. I would have no idea what to do if I found something like that. I'd think it was a tribble or something, and I'd stay away from it. The last thing I need is,
Yeah. Oh, Tony says he read the book. I think you're talking about Ender's Game, and it's great. Never seen the movie, but I heard it was good as well. So I've heard a little bit about the Ender's Game movie, and the only thing I've heard is that it's a disappointment. But that's just compared to the book. And I think all movies are pretty disappointing compared to the books.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the Harry Potter series actually held pretty true. That one wasn't bad, I didn't think, but
yeah, they left out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I thought some of the scenes could have been a little bit more carried through to the way the book portrays it. But I also listened to the audiobook, like all of the audiobooks, at least once a year. So I'm a little obsessed. And I point out all the differences. I think there is a sequel to the Ender's Game book. So now I'm just answering questions. Eli Polite asks, which, by the way, Eli, we need to talk to you. Does anyone do small classes at their shop, 1 to 3 people max, and how do you set pricing? So I can give my answer for this because I've done something similar, but not at my shop. I've done one-on-one classes before. And I just put kind of a post out into the world several months ago, just asking what other people did and how they charged. And it was a range up to about $50 an hour. And that was the high end. Although I think there were some like random people way out there that were charging like $75 an hour, but it's because they didn't want to teach that many people. So to answer that question, I think anywhere between, depending on skill level, Eli, because your work is so intricate, if that's what you're planning on teaching, I would go at the high end, probably for that kind of a thing. I would do at least $50 an hour because that's right around where I am. And I usually go to the other people's shops First of all, because my parlor is a mess. Anthony asks $50 each, depending on if it's a big group and you can do sort of a day rate. Like to do a hands-on class for 5 people, you might charge a day rate. But if it's just a one-on-one class and they just want to learn a specific skill, if it's basic stuff, you might want to drop it down to like $45 an hour. If it's if it's something a little bit more advanced, bring it up. Whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you don't hate yourself for after the fact. And we did a whole episode on just pricing, and this is one of the things that kind of comes into play when pricing work, is how much you actually value your time at. If you're not using your own tools and you're not using your own electricity and your overhead and you're not beating up on your own tools and machinery, you might be able to get away with charging a little bit less. If you're just going out, driving to their shop and showing them how to use their own tools, you can get away with charging a little bit less. But if you having somebody come into your own house using your tools, using your machinery, you might want to bump it up to where you're actually comfortable about it. But then you also might have to cover some type of liability insurance too with your business, having somebody working in your space like that. So I don't know if that's something that you already have in place, but it just depends. But that was just, those numbers are just based on what I got from kind of the internet as a whole when I put my feelers out several months ago. But
and I think a lot of it depends on really supply and demand. Like Glenn Lucas is going to, I mean, obviously he's not in the country, right? So, but he's going to probably demand more just because of who he is and his provenance as a turner. And that makes a big difference too. I've taught a lot of classes to Cub Scouts and one-on-one classes to people. And I've never charged for them because I just don't feel like, maybe I don't value my time enough, but I kind of felt, especially for like the Cub Scouts, I wouldn't want to charge for an organization like that. But I've probably had, in the last 2 years, probably a dozen people through my shop and done one-on-one how-tos on how to turn pins. That's primarily what I do. And I just haven't charged people, and I don't know why. You know, I don't feel the need to, or I hadn't felt the need to. Maybe I should, you know. Maybe I'll have, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's what you want to end up doing, or if you think that that's what's going to keep you in the shop and you're going to be happy with it, then maybe go for it. But I don't want to do it that often.
I think I'm just a pushover. I mean, honestly, I mean, I am. I'm too easygoing.
Yeah. See, I love teaching the craft, and I love sharing that information with others. So it's one of those things that I still value my time, and I still value the energy that has to go into the planning beforehand too. So I try not to just tell everybody, yeah, I'm going to be doing this, and I don't really do like group discounts. But like keep it between a one-on-one, or everybody gets the same price, or do a day rate and figure out what your limitations are and how far you're willing to push yourself. But yeah, if it's worth it to you, then...
See, I can see a difference though, because you obviously you're making and you're selling. So if you're not in your shop working on something you're going to sell, it's costing you money. So you need to charge me. I'm a true hobbyist. I don't sell anymore. I don't sell anything that I make. I just make things and I give them away, or I take them apart and I make something else out of them. So for me, my time in the shop is more just unwinding and just sort of calming down and pushing off all of the stresses of the day. And teaching someone is actually fun and I enjoy it. So for me, I think that's the difference. I'm just doing it because my time, I don't value my time. I'm not losing anything. I'm actually in the shop and I'm helping somebody gain something. So maybe that's, that's why I've not attempted to charge.
Yeah. I mean, and to each their own too. Kirk Cap has a question for me specifically. if I'm doing any IRD demos. Yes, I am. During the month of January, I have one per week plus a 3-day class at the end of January. And if you want information, I've got a list of about 12 different types of demos that I do. So I know it's a really long list, but I do a lot of different things. Just send me an email and I can email that out. And for anybody else who wants to have me demo for their club, I think there are still a couple people in here, or at least one, that I've demoed for in the past, or that I will be demonstrating for over the next month or so.
Tuesday.
Oh yeah, Tony, you're in the Austin Club, right? Yeah, I'm going to be demonstrating in, is it Tuesday? Now I've got my calendar all fit. Let me check my calendar. Is it Tuesday or Thursday? Now I'm confused.
I think it's kind of funny because you just explained your new method for tracking all this, and now you're already... you're like me. You're like me. I have a buddy who he's from here, but he's living in Phoenix right now, and he came home for the holiday, and he calls me the other day and he says, hey, let's go to lunch. So we set something. How about Saturday at 11? So today at 1:50, my phone rings and he's like, hey, did you enjoy your lunch? And I'm like, what? He's like, did you go to the restaurant today? I said, no. I said, I got up at 8:30. I ate breakfast at 10. I've been out in the shop ever since. He goes, I just woke up. He goes, we're supposed to have lunch today. Whoops. Yeah. So we kind of neither one. I said, next, let's plan another date, and I'll set an alarm on my phone because I'm
alarms on my phone are my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Tony corrected himself. He said, I'm right. It's Thursday. Okay. Whew, I can breathe again. Because I got stuff going on Tuesday. It's not a demo. Oh, hey, Gary Jones just joined. Gary made one of the coolest gnomes and named him Gnomeo.
Mm-hmm.
And I love him. But I think the Gnomepocalypse is finally over. I haven't gotten any requests other than one comment that I still need to respond to. So no more gnomes for a while, except for a couple extra gnomes that I'm going to send off as surprise gifts to some people. But
so
you're welcome, Gary.
So what's the critter going to be for Valentine's Day? Because I mean, obviously, Gnomepocalypse was for Christmas. So now there's got to be. Is it going to be dragons?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how Valentine-y they are, but I mean, they're pretty adorable.
Mm-hmm,
Look at that little charred guy. He's so cute. I made a fish last night too, and I named him Bubbles. I don't know. I've just been like losing my mind lately, but it's been a good break, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm actually getting a lot of watching under my belt, and not too much distraction from what I should be doing, but mostly diving into things that are helping me sort of just relax. And it's been really nice.
I can tell a difference in you from, like I said, it's been 2 weeks since we recorded, but I can honestly tell a difference in just your general demeanor, that I think you've been away from the stress and everything going on that you talked about happening at school. And I think it shows. You can tell that you've wound down a little bit. Now it'd be interesting next week, after you have a week of that first week back to school, to see how you're doing next Sunday night when we record.
Well, we'll see how many things change. And to be honest, they said that we're going to have to spend a couple days this week going through like 2 full days of just training sessions, getting everybody to the point that I'm already at. And they've been using me as an example of like, this is what you need to do with your lessons. I was like, this is what we've been doing since the beginning of the year. What are you talking about? And they're like, well, nobody else has been. Like, okay, so I've just been doing all
maybe
this
you can do an online demo
nothing.
And bill them for it.
Yeah. No, they would expect me to do it for
maybe
free.
You can do an online demo. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, so I have to sit through 2 days of training to tell me to do what I'm already doing. So that'll be fun. I'm definitely going to bring some objects to sand. I've always got legs to sand. You. It'll be great. Yeah, it'll be fine. Kirk Cap is asking me what I teach in school. So I'm a high school art teacher in Houston, and I teach Art 1, sculpture, ceramics, jewelry, and AP 3D design. So Art 1 plus all of the 3D art classes that the school has to offer. And some of the 3D art classes that the district has to offer. I'm the only one that teaches jewelry in the entire district, which is really cool. I mean, I'm happy to say that I think my students are doing really well in my jewelry class. And that's why we have a full class every year. It started off when I first started the jewelry class, there were only 4 people signed up and they were ready to cancel the class. And I'm like, this is jewelry. Just make it into wearable art class instead of just specifically jewelry. And that actually brings us back to what you were saying in the beginning with the jeweler's saws. Those things are, I love them. My students hate them. And they are just so reckless with them until I tell them that if they break more than this amount of jeweler's saw blades, I'm going to have them start paying for them. This one girl broke 12 blades in like half an hour. And I'm like, girl, these are going to start costing you $1 each. And she's like, what? I was like, you need to listen. Do it like this. Don't do all this. Don't do all that. Don't go all crazy with it. And then she started breaking many, many less blades. And I'm like, you were doing that on purpose, weren't you? She thought it was hilarious. Every time she came up with another broken blade and saw me get more and more frustrated. Some of these kids. There's another question in the chat. Do you do the wax carving and mold making? I need to make a wedding ring and I have questions. Oh,
that's interesting.
Oh, we have not. I did in college do the wax carving and then lost wax process of casting. So I would have to familiarize myself on the process, but I think you are better off doing that if you have a vacuum chamber to suck all the bubbles out of the plaster, I believe, or whatever mold material you're using. I think it's plaster because you can just basically wash it away from the stuff. Yeah, I think if you have that and you know how to make the mold and the, I don't know what it's called, kind of the arms that lead into the center of the mold where the ring is so that you can pour into it and you have a vent as well, then I think you should be good. But that's a good question. It's a good series of questions. And that one comes in from Eli Polite. Is saw stop table saw worth the money besides just the safety part? Comes in from Ironwood 308. Bob, what do you think?
Well, that's a great question. I'd love to have a saw stop, but they are real pricey. I still have all 10 of these. If I was to lose one of these, I would say, boy, if it stopped me from losing it, yes, it's worth it. But, man, it's just so hard to justify spending that kind of money, for that saw. So I right now, I can't say it's worth it. But if I'm like this next week, it would have been worth to have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you can get one of the lower...
They're about 2,000, 1,900, 2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the one that I was looking at several years ago was like 4,500-ish. But that was like with all the bells and whistles and everything, and that was probably 6 years ago. And I was thinking at the time I was going to save up and get it, but I just don't use the table saw enough to justify it. And to justify that I really won't be using the table saw very much, and I can do most of my cutting on the band saw. But if I start getting back into flat work and I start using my table saw again, I just have the Delta contractor saw. I mean, it's the good saw. It's I don't know that I would call it full size, but it's big enough to do everything I need. I try to be as safe as I possibly can because that thing is scary, but you can hurt yourself almost just as easily on the bandsaw too. So,
oh yeah.
I don't know. I still want one. I think I will still make that a shop investment if I ever move into a larger space and it's more of a permanent sort of profession rather than just a hobby. But yeah, and then Tony says, I have a friend who has a saw stop and says that it's top performing saw besides the safety features. And yeah, the 2 saws that we had in my college workshop, they were both saw stops and they were the best table saws I've ever used.
They're nice. They're smooth.
They really are.
To make a recommendation on a saw, because that's one of the things that Ironwood asked, it's hard for me to recommend a saw because I don't really understand, the type of work that you're doing. It's like Rebecca said, she has a contractor saw. It does her well. I have a table saw, that is one step above a contractor saw. I would like to have a cabinet saw. I mean, it depends on how much you're using that saw, and it depends on what you're going to do with it as to the type of saw you need. So it's tough to make that recommendation. But what I would say is set a budget for what you want to spend, okay? And then find out what you can buy on the market for that budget. Say it's $1,000. But look at saws that are above that. Then go on to Craigslist and go on to Marketplace and some of the other resources. Or if you belong to a club, ask around. See if you can find a saw within your budget that's a step or two above what you were willing to pay, what you budgeted for it. Because I think you can always do better than what you want if you just do a little research. And I wish I could make a recommendation for you, but it's hard for me to say, oh, yes, you need the Jet, blah, blah, blah. Because maybe you don't. Maybe you need something better or something different. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. And again, depending on what you're making and how often you're going to be using it, it's, oh man.
Yeah.
That's
a good point, Eli.
Yeah. Eli
and
says
that's what I said.
I watched two people lose fingers on a table saw, and it's not pretty, and a finger will cost about $50,000.
And that was exactly my point. If I lost a finger and that saved a finger, I would say it was worth every darn penny. And if I had $2,000 or plus, I'd have one. Honestly, I would have one just because of that, because it is a fear of mine. And one of the things that I did to try to make it safer on me is I couldn't afford a saw stop. I still can't. I bought an Incra sled, and there's a handle that your hand is on, and there's a rail that your hand is on. So the closest my hand gets to the blade is probably about 6 inches away. Any wood on that saw can be locked down with these little clamps. And when I'm running it through both of my hands, I know where they're at. So I'm not worried about that, because even if I have kickback, my hand, the closest hand, is holding on to a handle. So if you can't afford a saw stop, there are measures you can take to help make you safer. And the main thing is, before you cut, think, where are my hands? Mm-hmm. Where's the blade? And make sure you're using sleds. Sleds are awesome. You get more accurate cuts, and they keep your hands safe and clear.
Mm-hmm. And where could my hands end up if something bad does happen?
If something bad happens, think. See, it's like professional athletes when they see their game before they ever perform. See the cut before you ever make it. And always think, where's my hand? And that's the best advice I can give you. It's not going to save you 100%, but it's going to help you. Even if you have a saw stop. I mean, that's good advice.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions in the chat?
Yeah, so I cut my hand on a shop vac and a saw stop for that. Let's see. So that's my.
I mean, I can hurt myself on just about anything. Like, I run into doorways all the time. That's not going to make me tear down my house and get a house without doorways, but
yeah,
maybe put some foam noodles on the corners of things. Nothing will protect me from everything.
It's really an interesting thought, because I was using a router today, and I was having that same thought. It's in a table about the router. That blade could eat your lunch just as bad, maybe even worse. A table saw will take your finger off clean. The router will pull your hand in and maybe do even more damage. So it's a scary proposition. Mm-hmm. And I agree with Gary Jones. I'm hoping when the patent runs out, there will be some competition. I'd like to see Jet and Laguna and some of the other manufacturers get into that market and maybe get the price beat down a little bit.
Yeah.
Rebecca, we're at 7:59, so we're almost at an hour. Do you want to move forward with some dad jokes?
Ooh, well, yes, we can. Oh. And if anybody has any dad jokes that you want read on the podcast and you want to throw them into the chat real quick while we're pulling ours up, go for it. Go for it. This should be fun.
You go first today, Rebecca.
Okay, good. I have a long one from Kyle Foote. It's more of a story. I'm not having much luck with jobs lately. I wasn't suited to be a tailor. The muffler factory was exhausting. I couldn't cut it as a barber. I didn't have the patience to be a doctor. I wasn't a good fit in the shoe factory, even though I put my soul into it. The paper shop folded. Pool maintenance was too draining. I got fired from the cannon factory, and I just couldn't see any future as a historian.
Oh my gosh, that was a long one.
I know, right? It gave everybody just enough time to put theirs in, maybe.
Oh my goodness. Well, here's one for all you single people out there. Did you guys hear that there's a new dating service in Prague? It's called Czech-Mate. Sorry, that's a bad one.
Oh, now that everybody's here and I've got the full attention of 26 people, how many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh?
Oh my God.
10 tickles.
Oh my goodness.
I know it's
that
dumb.
one never gets old, does it?
I know it doesn't. I love it so much.
I actually have a dad joke from Rozetta Hahn, which is unusual. Rosetta never sends us any jokes.
Yeah, never.
Never. Rosetta says, "What's faster than a calculator?" A calcu-now. I couldn't get that one out. So those are the only jokes I have today. So if somebody has something better, please stick. If you have something better, which may not take much, but please put that in the chat.
I've got a couple that Tim Wadley sent me. I'm not sure if he's still on.
Okay.
I've started a new band called Blanket. We're a cover band. Bad time to take a drink, Bob.
You almost got me.
I know. All right. There's another one from Tim. What do you call a paper airplane that can't fly? Stationary.
I like that one. I like that one a lot.
It's great. I'll go tell that one to the ladies in the printing room or the copy center in my school tomorrow. It'll be great. They'll get a laugh out of it, and they'll probably groan at me too. It'll be awesome. All right. You want to tell everybody where you can be found on the social medias?
Yes. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at RJBWoodTurner, and you can find my shop vlog channel at WhatchaDoinBob over on YouTube.
And you can find me. You ready for it? Facebook and YouTube, RebeccaDeGroot. Another YouTube, Rebecca's Up to Something. Instagram, Rebecca_DeGroot. Website, www.RebeccaDeGroot.com. Etsy, RebeccaDeGrootStudio, no spaces. Redbubble, RebeccaDeGrootStudio, with spaces. And that's it. And then you can find Michael DeLauter's social media at Facebook, Lost River Pens, Instagram, Lost River Pens, YouTube, Lost River Pens, and his website, www.lostriverpens.com.
Perfect.
All right. And thank you all. Oh, what?
I just have to say, you did a fantastic job hosting today, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all so very much for coming on and joining us today. I'm going to say right now, we're not going to log off right away, but let me just wrap up the show real quick. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Marie, for helping host the Zoom call. If you like the podcast, you can find us. We are You Made That Podcast, and we are on Instagram and Facebook and all over the social medias. And if you have any questions about the podcast, you can ask any of our hosts, myself, Bob Blandford, Michael DeLauter, and we will be absolutely thrilled to respond to all of your questions. If you have dad jokes that you want to send us, please do so, because we think they're all hilarious, even if they're real dumb. If you want to share the podcast, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your neighbors, tell your grandma. They'll probably like it, especially now that everyone's still bored. Thank you again for listening. Have a fantastic evening and week. Bye.
Adios.